Welcome to Black Businesses Matter, a podcast about why Black businesses matter and the benefits of collaborating and advocating for Black businesses to drive impact. Each episode will cover legacy, hope, Black joy, funding sources, cultural shifts, equality, and so much more. We will provide inspiration and action while spreading some joy to a thriving community of Black business owners and leading thought leaders.
I am Larvetta Lofton, your host and the founder of the L3 Agency.
Known as the brand maven who transforms organizations with her storytelling prowess, meet Larvetta L. Lofton, host of Black Businesses Matter, a podcast about why Black businesses matter and the benefits of collaborating and advocating for Black businesses to drive impact.
All right, you all, welcome back to another episode of Black Businesses Matter. And you all know it is Women's History Month. We've been talking about it all month. I'm excited. I'm always excited when I get to talk to entrepreneurs and business owners and get in the room to talk about how they are changing the world and creating innovation. And so, but it's a special month because I'm a woman, right? Mm-hmm. And so as a woman, and it is Women's History Month, it's nice to have our next guest who is a man, but honors Women's History Month.
Yes.
You know? So that's dope. So I want you all to know that this podcast is not for women to listen to. It's for men to listen to too, and honor the women in your life who could be entrepreneurs, business leaders, professional leaders. And so I will say this, as I say for Black history should be done every day. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure that we're there yet with Women's History yet. So we going to just, because we still ain't got there with Black History Month. We only got 28 days. And so, but the good side is, at least with Women's History Month, we got what, 31 days?
31, because my birthday's on the 30th.
Yeah. Oh, you are 31st. Oh, wow.
March 30th.
March 30th.
So that's how I know there's 31 days.
She said that's how I know, because it's my birthday. So I love it. So I am excited to bring our next guest. And you know what's been really cool this whole month for Women's History Month? We have been highlighting businesses that are local in Chicago. As you all know, we are headquartered in Chicago, but we have listeners. We have you all as listeners all over the world. But we wanted to shine light on just all of the great things that are happening in Chicago and all over, all over the Illinois area. And so probably 80% of our episodes were from business owners out of Chicago. We've had a few people out of Texas, Charlotte, California, but Chicago dominates. I'm a Chicago native, born and raised on the south side of Chicago, and have a business in Chicago where we do business all over the world. So it's nice to be able to have my local entrepreneurs who are impacting the world right here in our community. And so I love to see that because I am a true native of Chicago. And so James, you guys, he's just a wealth of information, and he's a connector and all those things. And so I've had the pleasure to meet him in his journey in different roles. And so he considers himself, and I agree, a serial tech entrepreneur. Yes. And he's launched several apps and websites. And yes, this happens here in Chicago. I know y'all think about Silicon Valley and, you know, all the other places, but we have it here in Chicago. That's okay. Right. And James is spearheading an incredible space that will allow for more tech businesses to be able to thrive. He's often asked to participate in speaking engagements around entrepreneurship and is often interviewed on radio and TV for his acumen on launching startups. He has won several pitch competitions and has successfully coached many entrepreneurs and tech founders on the skill of pitching to investors. That's always frightening, you know? So
not if you work with me.
James gonna get you right. He gonna get you right. James is also the CEO and the founder, which we're happy to share, of 1921 Coworking Incorporated. That's 1920 and 1921 Incubator NFP, which is nonprofit, right? Not for profit. It is named to honor the historic yes, Black Wall Street of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and is the first tech and manufacturing incubator on the far south side of Chicago. Come through, James.
You're so
Come
IQ.
through. Welcome to the show.
I'm here.
You here. You here. And we were just talking about the fact that, guys, I've been interviewing all day today, but by the time you guys get these episodes, it'll be every week. But I have been in the studio today, but we were just talking about, right? We don't have a community where we can go to, and again, we have Chinatown. So in Chicago, we have Chinatown. And then I'm going to also introduce this wonderful, wonderful beautiful woman that's in the studio that is also part of James's team on this. So I am going to have her introduce herself because I don't have any information on you. So I'm going to let you do that. But she's also an actress that some of you all may recognize. I know we're on audio, but you might visually be able to connect with her.
When you hear that voice.
When you hear her voice. I agree. And give me some of that. I'm not going to tell y'all. I'm not going to tell y'all. I'm going to just let that sink in for a second. But she is an actress with a very renowned film. So I'm excited. I thought she was in theater, but that's a whole nother story. And so, but to your point, that show is definitely could have been on stage. Could have been right. So we were talking about historic. The historic Wall Street. Like you go in Chicago, you go to Chinatown, right? They don't say support us. It's just Chinatown. So you're going to get Chinese food, you're going to get tea, you're going to the grocery store, you're going to the bank. They have it all. We don't have that. Right? We don't have that. And this is a segregated city, right? But we don't have an area that literally I can go to the bank. That's that's there for me. I can go get my nails done. I could go and work. I could go see my attorney. I could go get my teeth cleaned. We don't have that. So this idea of it was never to not be inclusive, but every community has it. Why don't we? Sure. And so that's the thing that we want people to understand is that it's not about we're not inviting others because we actually want others. We know that, right? Absolutely. We want others to come and buy. And so the fact that you are creating that is so necessary. It's probably necessary now more than ever. Don't you think, James?
I do. And I know we're going to get into it, but that's kind of why we kicked off this initiative of the hoodies and the T-shirts, because now it is more needed with funding being frozen. Yeah. Funding being dried up. Yep. I read a stat of how many nonprofits there are in Illinois.
Oh, it's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's in
I feel like we might be at the top. I mean, I'm blown away.
Yeah, it was in the thousands.
I know.
Of nonprofits.
I know.
And all of them are vying for the same grant money or funding that comes from federal funding. Well, now that those monies are being frozen, because people fail to realize is that Donald Trump is a businessman. Yeah. So anything that does not make money, they're going to cut. Right? Yeah. We're seeing that happen even with the Walgreens. Yeah. A private equity firm comes in. Oh, you can count all the Walgreens, and they've already started letting them go in the Black communities already. Yep. So it's about to get worse now. And so what happened, that's why even like to answer your question, now is more than ever, we need to come and support Black nonprofits, especially those who are community focused. Yeah. Right. We have a lot of nonprofits. For instance, I've been in nonprofit for 20 years, and you have a lot of nonprofits that are not Black run that serve the same community. Yep. Okay. So because they've been getting money and because they are, when COVID hit, you had funders, people who would give $10 million out to maybe 8 different nonprofits. Yep. When COVID hit, they gave $2 million out to maybe 1 or 2 nonprofits. Well, who do you think got those? The big ones that are doing the exact same things that smaller Black nonprofits are doing. Yeah. Right. So now more than ever, with funding being frozen and the country going in a different direction, we need to come together now more than ever to get our own stuff.
Yeah, that part. And I feel like that's the important part that we have to delve into. And so, James, one of the things I kind of dive into, because I want people to make connections with people, right? And so who was James as a little boy?
So military brat.
Okay.
My father was in the Army. My mother worked for the government. I was born in Fairbanks, Alaska. Wow. Grew up in Minnesota and Germany. So ja, sprechen so ein bisschen Deutsch.
Oh, wow.
Shout out to my boy Boris Cujo.
Okay. Yeah, but I do like Boris.
Yeah,
so
we both
it's
speak
okay.
German.
Yeah. Okay.
But I grew up, and my parents were philanthropists. They gave money to people. They helped people. Me and my brothers had no clue. We had everything we wanted. Literally, when you're on social media and you see these nostalgic things, I'm like, wow, we had that. Okay, we had that. You just all these things. I'm like, you don't realize it as a child until you get older. Like everything we wanted. We had. And my parents were early investors in the stock market in the 80s.
Okay.
They're very, very, very good now.
Okay. That's good.
And
that's
so
good.
that's
I like that he said good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. They're doing really good.
Yeah.
And me and my brothers didn't have to pay for college. And so I knew growing up, I said, I want to be able to do the same thing. So none of my kids had to pay for college. Our last two are finishing up. Well, one is starting and one is finishing. Our daughter got her master's. And so same thing. I got into investing. So for me as a boy, I wanted to be like my dad.
Wow.
Growing up.
It's something about when you grow up and you have the image in front of you, how you're able to produce fruit from that.
Yeah. I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
And so that was me as a boy. I wanted to be just like I didn't want to go in the army though. Yeah. But I wanted to be like my dad and get married, have a family. All my friends were like, wait, what? Yeah. I was like, want to be great, man. We're all gonna be married and have kids. And my friends were like, wait, what?
I love it though, because I believe that you have to see it to believe it. Mm-hmm. You've got to see it to believe it. Like, and it doesn't necessarily always come through family. It can come through your networks and your friends and things like that. So the fact that you had it right in front of you, we don't hear that story often. That's awesome.
Well, I tell you, my parents have been married 58 years, I think.
Okay.
59. And then my wife and I, I should know this. It'll be 27.
This ain't the marriage show, so it's okay.
Don't come for me.
I know, right?
I think it's 27 years.
27 years.
Yeah, May 3rd. So, so again, seeing my dad, my mom, and
you had an example.
Yeah, and so
that speaks volume in the space that you've been in. And so, in the way I see it is, it was easy for you to see that this is achievable.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and I was always an entrepreneur. My mom.
I was going to say, how many businesses, James?
I know. So
how many businesses have you had?
Right. So I was a music prodigy. So I started teaching piano at 15.
Wow.
So that was my first foray into entrepreneurship. Yeah. I would teach people basic piano.
Okay.
So that by the time they got, they were taking, paying a lot of money, they already knew the basics. So they could go right in. So that was like my first entrepreneurship gig, was teaching people piano.
That's awesome.
And then, I can't remember what else I did after that. I was in high school.
That's all right. But were you the hustler on campus? Were you hustling?
I guess so. I never even heard that term until I moved here to Chicago. Yeah.
It's probably a Chicago thing, hustling. Or you were, or some words, you were just connecting people to ways to make money,
right?
Yeah,
no, I was. Yeah. Even today, I teach people just investing. Again, I was in the stock market. I have LeBron James rookie card that's worth about $20,000 now, probably more that he hit 50,000. But I've always had an investor mindset because I remember sitting at the table with my dad and he would say, these are the stocks that we own.
Yeah.
So I was like in 8th grade.
Wow.
And so I'd be like, wow, I can't wait to own my own stock. So eventually I started investing. E-Trade made it available for everybody. Yeah. So I've been investing. So I would coach people on investing, and now I work mostly in private equity. Okay. So there's different kinds of private equity, but 1921 was the first tech incubator where you could invest in the tech incubator.
Yeah, you were. Yeah. I love when you built that.
We got into that. So so I've always been in that space where, and I mean, even And I've been passionate about getting this going. I mean, we have investors, but I was out doing Uber. I didn't care. We're getting this going. The community needs this.
Yeah.
And when I would teach entrepreneurship, I would tell everyone, I said, everybody has a why.
Yeah.
Make sure one of your whys is, how can I create jobs in the community?
That's right.
I'm not saying we're the only ones, but primarily we don't think it is my job to create jobs in the community.
Correct.
We say, what's the president going to do?
Correct.
What's the mayor doing?
Correct.
What's the
Correct.
Instead of saying, okay, well, what do we need to do?
That's right.
And as I shared earlier before we got on, that's why every tech startup we launch, that company launches in the community.
Yeah.
So those jobs stay there, which means the young people can intern.
Correct.
at these tech jobs,
Correct.
tech companies in their neighborhoods.
Well, it's interesting because, one of the reasons why I built this podcast was because as we were coming out of COVID, right? I work in marketing. I know how the system works. I know when, marketing is set up for consumerism. I get that. And I saw all this money being given. And I was like, so this is literally the truth. I said, well, what's going to happen is when the money runs out and we are no longer seen. That's where the podcast came in.
Wow.
That you could have. So look where we are today, right? So imagine had I not done it, I was already knowing that they were setting us up because I knew that was PR. I know PR. That was a PR move. If I tell people we're putting $12 billion into this, we're going to go run to that organization or run to that product or what have you. But then we'll miss the real story of where are the Black businesses, right? Where are they coming together? And so knowing that today and understanding, right? Literally, I started right as we were coming out. We were slowly coming out. And people were like, really? And I was like, because I know that this money is not, it's a PR stunt. It's not a real, because if it was real, we wouldn't be in this situation today, right? We wouldn't be in this situation. So I think it's important. And we are the largest employer of Black people. I worked for an ad agency, right? And the first time when I worked for an ad agency, they were all Black people because it was owned by what? A Black guy. So I recognize that's how you build diversity. That's how you build it. You bring us to the table because we'll bring part of your talent pool, to your point, from the neighborhood. And then vibrant, right? Vibrant businesses create vibrant neighborhoods.
That's right.
We got it mixed up. So the fact that you're building that helps people to say, well, that's down the street. I can go there. I can go get a job. I can go learn this. I could do. That creates an ecosystem that says, again, the way you were raised is achievable. Okay. So understand this, but I want to bring you into this conversation. I would love for you to share your role right now with this new 1921 Coworking, and share with people, just in case people want to visualize who they who they listening to. Right. Just in case.
Okay. Well, hi, everybody.
Because she's beautiful and perfect.
She is.
She is beautiful. My name is Cynda Williams, and I'm known mainly as an actress and a singer. You can look me up. Yeah, you can look me up. But I'm from Chicago, Chicago South Side also. Yes. Although I was born on the West Side, so I got to give my props to the West Side. But I grew up partially in Chicago before we moved to Indiana. And I have always had a part of me, the most important part of me was a service-driven lifestyle. I've always mentored. I've always participated in group activities to bring up the community because that's how I was raised. So though I had these creative talents, which are my passion, my purpose falls into community and working with building up the community best I can. And I usually use therapeutic means because that's my background besides the creative thing. But I get involved with different projects that are happening. And James reached out to me and told me about what he's doing. And it was in line with some of my own ideas and dreams. When I was, one of my earliest dreams was to have a school that was not just a school for creative arts, but for practical arts. I wanted to combine the two because I always felt like there was going to come a time, and here we are, where we were going to know how to garden. We were going to know how to make clothes again. We were going to know how to do all these practical things that our grandparents and before knew how to do, but we've gotten so used to, being able to buy everything from the big box store, but not everybody has the capacity to do that. So I wanted to provide a place where people came together, and children and older, depending on, if it's night class or day class, came together to learn the basics of everything because a lot of it's not taught in at home anymore, and a lot of it's not taught at school anymore. And I just felt like this was something that was important. And I've tried different things with different people in different places, but I just came back to Chicagoland recently to help my sister. My sister had twins, and my other sister and I came back. And so for the first time, I'm really connecting with people in Chicago. And so when James reached out and told me what he's doing, I was like, there are so many aspects that are that vibe with me, you know, and what I want to do, because I'll do creative things forever, but there's no community to provide a movie to, you know what I'm saying, or whatever. So I really, plus tech, that's the other thing. That is not who I am, obviously. I'm a creative person in an artistic way, a little bit different, although a lot of creators I know are very technology. They have a lot of technological expertise. I'm just not one of them.
So can I help you a little bit with that one?
Sure.
And this is someone who told me as a creative, right? As a creative in my own right, you use the phone. That's tech.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think we make things like bigger than what they are. And I agree with you. Yeah, you know, they're software engineers, but you are tech. You just choose to decide how you want to use tech.
Right. Well, that was going to be my point. The fact is, I see the direction of where things are going. Unlike a lot of my counterparts, the people that I came up with in the business with, I did not shy away from social media. I did not shy away from figuring out how to use this new thing, the computer, because that's how old I am. I've always been very active with staying relevant. I didn't want to get lost in the old. And AI is a huge part of my world now. And because I'm a writer. So when it comes to writing, and even my union, SAG-AFTRA, we had to really fight for protections with AI. And I think it's something that can be used well. If it, you know, it's almost like you can't make a slave of AI. That's when it gets dangerous, if you try to make a slave of something, you know. And so I'm always open, even though that's not my focus, I'm always open to the tech side, because that is the direction that we're moving, and that appealed to me. So I wanted to be involved.
That's awesome. I say that that's awesome because I love that you galvanize people to be able to invest in something that is absolutely amazing. So I do want to ask you this, right? So we've had this conversation with many business owners, right? In this place of co-working. And I do, believe it or not, I want you to give the definition of co-working.
Sure. So basically, co-working, believe it or not, everything I do is based on what I've learned and experienced and the ancestors from Black Wall Street. They were probably the original co-workers, some of the original co-working people, because they understood that in order for me to build this Black Wall Street, okay, I've got to help people to do it. And so what you had, the J.B. Stratfords and the O.G. Worleys and the Mabel Littles, and you had Black power couples back then. Just so you know, when you come to the 1921 building, as you walk around, we've got frames with a picture of an entrepreneur from 100 years ago. A little mini bio on there and a QR code where you can scan and learn more about them. You find out that they started the co-working space because they knew, if we're going to build this, I got to help this person. Co-working is where we're able to work together. It's almost like networking. There's a benefit there, right? Co-working says, hey, you just did it when I came in this morning. All right. So like you said, we make things big. You're literally doing co-working where we're able to come together and work together and then build. They built Black Wall Street by co-working together.
I'm glad you gave the definition, because I think we thought it was something new. It's something we've been doing for decades, right?
Yeah, 100 years ago. So when I decided to build this, the way the offices are set up, you're able to meet with people.
I love it.
We've got training rooms. We've got pop-up vendor rooms, so that as people are coming in, they're able to walk. And we named each hallway after streets from Black Wall Street. So you've got Greenwood, Avenue hallway. Yeah. You've got Archer hallway, Pine hallway, and Lansing. There were over 600 businesses in Black Wall Street. We'll be the first co-working space on the South Side, actually, probably with over 600 mailboxes.
Wow.
The goal is to have 600 small entrepreneurs and businesses with a mailbox for their business.
That's awesome.
Well, what happens when you have a pop-up there? You got people coming in every day, checking their mail, using the offices, using the content room, and they're going to go shop.
Yep.
We're creating that co-working Black Wall Street, if you will, in a 12,000 square foot space.
Yeah, you've been the one thing that I love, James, you've been talking about this for years, and I'm so proud that we are here, right? You've been working on this. And I like to bring light, because sometimes I think people go into these or hear about these stories and it's like, oh my gosh, and you've been working on this for how long?
Yeah, a number of years. I bought the building in 2020.
Yeah, I knew it was either 19 or 20. Yeah. Okay, yeah. And so making sure that people understand, like, you can know that vision, it may not actually be executed for another 3 to 5 years, but you still was paving. You still were talking about it. You were still telling people it's coming. And the fact that it's so when is opening? Do you have an opening day?
So it's in 4 phases.
Okay.
Phase 1 is the entrepreneurship hub and training room and the mailboxes. That opens this month.
This month?
Yeah, this month.
Women, do y'all hear that? It's Women's History Month. You could go up in. Okay, that's awesome. And that, can you provide the address?
I sure can. 11001 South Michigan Avenue.
Yep.
So 110th in Michigan. So we're on the magnificent Michigan.
Yes, you are.
Avenue.
Yes.
Doesn't matter where you are.
I grew up on Michigan Avenue.
Hello?
So yes.
Okay, so there you go.
Yep. I grew up on Michigan Avenue.
So that's opening. Phase 1 is opening this month.
Okay.
Phase 2, we've got 15 offices that will be available for lease upstairs.
Nice.
Phase 3, that'll be this summer.
Okay.
And phase 3 will be a huge open co-working space for people to network, use the Wi-Fi, whatever you want. And phase 4 is our outdoor co-working space. Oh. So you'll be able to meet outside with your clients in office pods.
Yeah.
And then phase 5 is our manufacturing hub, because we are a tech incubator.
Okay.
People with ideas will be able to come and say, I have this idea for a widget, for a car. We can run it through the simulation and then create an actual product right there at the building.
Nice.
And if it's viable, which means we look for 2 things. Will it make money? Yeah. And how many jobs will it create in the community?
Nice.
So anybody who comes to us with tech ideas, an app idea or a website idea or manufacturing, those are the 2 things we look for.
Got it.
Is it viable? Will it make money? And how many jobs will it create in the community? And
that's so needed.
Oh, absolutely. Well, that's how you build the community up, right? Imagine in Roseland, we create, like, one manufacturing idea we have now will create about 1,500 jobs, starting at $55,000 a year. So imagine 1,500 people who live in Roseland and Pullman now going from minimum wage to middle class.
Yeah.
So now what happens? They become homeowners in about a year or so, working with realtors.
Vibrant businesses create vibrant neighborhoods.
That's right. Now more business. Like, wait, there's 1,500 people that are making how much? Okay, we need this. We need that. So now you begin to see it built up. So that's kind of the pattern. And again, like I shared earlier, we have a plan to launch 350 tech and manufacturing startups all over the globe. We've been asked to come to Belize City, Belize, and Montego Bay, Jamaica, with these. So you have your passport, right? All right, good. Okay.
That's all. And know that the one thing that I love about this is that I can tell you something, James, I have moved. I remember our office was in West Loop and we moved to the South Side. It was a pain in the butt trying to find space. Like, there is like limited space. And so, number one, because I have women staff, was safety, right? So you have to, and I say safety, they have parents that they have to report back to, or they have a family, right? That's got to be like, you going to work where and what? And so you have to be mindful, like you said, that, we have to think about as business owners, right? The jobs that are being created. Yeah. And the other part is, and the fact that these families get to tell they're, think about it, right? You have kids, right? So what you love to brag about your kid. Oh, he just got a job at, KPMG, right? You like, okay. But when you say, oh, he just got a job for a tech startup, right? We want to be able to say that and want to be able to share that in a way that people literally say, yeah, he's at this tech startup. He's making this. He's good. But that's where we have minimized our value.
Yep.
And I say that because you could hear families, oh, yeah, you working for that black, get a good job. A good job is a job, right? Government, good job is, working for the corporate. But I feel like you being able to bring light that these manufacturing tech jobs can give you not just a minimum wage, but literally make you, like you said, is to be able to make money and be part of, in some ways, middle class, right? And so I think that that's important to tell that story in an area. So vote for those of y'all in Roseland. There's a lot of history in Roseland, a lot of good history. And there's some beautiful homes in Roseland, like massive. Like people, we love Bronzeville, and we love Brownsville. It's okay. But Roseland, like you could actually stretch and you don't have to touch your neighbor. Touch the house in there. So you have the ability to also invest into homes over there. So will there be a feeder for people who might be interested in purchasing in the area?
Absolutely. So one of the things, I have an investor, her name is Megan. She's a writer as well. She writes for a magazine. And I was sitting there talking to her and why I'm doing this. And I said, well, I heard an activist say, we need more youth centers. And I was like, we don't need any more youth centers. What we need are resources. The resources are the people. My dad was a resource for me. I'm a resource. I'm a mentor to mentees. Okay. What happens is, you never hear anyone say, I made it out of Hyde Park or I made it out of Lincoln Park but everybody says I made it out the hood. And I said, so what is that? I said, so people make it and then they leave. And Megan is listening to me. And she goes, so what you're saying, James, is what does it say about a community when the mark of success is leaving people behind? And I was driving. I'm like, text that to me right now, because I'm going to use that in my next interview, right? I said, because that is literally what we say in the community. I got out. To answer your question is, we're coming in. So we're bringing great paying jobs, good jobs too, right? Great paying jobs. And so we're working with builders and realtors. And we say, hey, listen, if we bring this job and you build this and we take it over, right? So we partner with the builders, 1921 real estate, whatever it's going to be called. If you work for any one of the companies that we launch, you get first dibs on buying this beautiful 3-4 bedroom house where you live, where you currently live.
Wow.
And the stipulation is you can't move, or rather you can't sell the house. You can't rent the house for 10 years because we have to turn the community around. It's going to take about 10 years.
Yeah.
And so the goal is we come in with the jobs and we bring the houses.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So now you don't need a youth center when you've got this vibrant community. The reason we have all these youth centers is because a lot of the communities are not vibrant. They're not safe. They're not this. But when I own a home and my girlfriend that we've been friends and we worked at Walmart together, now we both own a home. And now this couple that were young couple that they both worked, one worked at Walmart, one worked at, Russ Ross, now they both are bringing in $110,000 into their household and they own a home, it changes the perspective.
It does.
It changes everything because now you're like, when that kid comes by and he drops that little flaming hot bag on the ground, like, oh, whoa. Don't do that. And now you got this little kid saying, yeah, my grandma, she's an investor in that company right there. Or my grandpa, he invested in that company and my brother works there. We're changing all of that.
Change the narrative.
Change the narrative.
We have to.
And it changes that. So like you said, back to the Chinatowns, now we're building these little mini Chinatowns in Roseland, in Inglewood, in Pilsen, in Little Village, in Austin. That is the goal. And that's why, again, I was talking to an investor and he was like, James, I was just in Montego Bay. Could you bring 1921 to Montego Bay?
That's awesome.
Next thing I know, I'm talking to one of the head instructors at this school, a STEM school, that's teaching 3D manufacturing.
I was going to ask you about 3D manufacturing. Okay.
So you're familiar with WeatherTech. They make all the weather mats. All of their products are made on 3D printers.
Wow.
And so I said, we could do the same thing.
Yeah.
Right? That's why Mary Lightfoot, was supposed to give me 4 3D printers, but I'm not mad. Anyway.
Okay.
So they love the fact that I was talking to one of the potential investors about this manufacturing idea. We've got 3 of them. I said, it'll create about 1,500 jobs and we would pay whatever. They were like, can you bring that to Montego Bay? I said, I could bring it anywhere.
Yeah.
We can take the 1921 template and bring it anywhere. I can launch a tech company anywhere. You can say, James, I have a tech idea, but I always wanted to live in Aruba, right? We can launch that in Aruba.
That's awesome. That's dope.
Right? So now you are a tech founder with a house in Aruba, a house in Chicago, and you just helped create 500 jobs.
That's the life I want to live.
Okay.
So I ain't no wrong with that, James. I like that.
But that's what we're saying. That's what we're going to do.
You're listening to Black Businesses Matter, and we will continue our conversation in a second. But first, take a listen to this special message for our BBM fam.
We know how important it is to stay connected, so why not join our BBM Fam Club for special announcements and exclusive offers by texting BBM FAM to 312-300-1300. That's BBM FAM to 312-300-1300 today. Now let's get back to Black Businesses Matter.
And so even from you, right, coming from creative artists, right, and when you think about this, just to attract films, right? We know that, Central City Productions, and they're all on the west side. A lot of the productions are on the west side of Chicago. And, kids, when we think about this, right, you go into the schools, they still want to be basketball players. They still want to be even though we know that 1 out of literally 40,000 actually makes it to the NBA. Exactly. But they still believe, and that's okay. They still can believe it, right? And so I think even in the acting community, I also think, and I'm going to kind of ask you, is that, even as an actress, right? What is it about Chicago that we don't, and I don't want to say breed, but many of our actors don't stay here? Entertainers.
There's a few reasons.
Okay, I'd love to know that.
Yeah, well, I didn't stay because I was told directly by every casting director that I met in Chicago to leave.
Wow.
They said, you don't fit. You don't look black. You're not white. You're not Spanish. You don't fit. So you should go to New York or LA. And I said, okay. And I did. That's first. Second of all, Chicago is very committed to and loyal to theater. It's very loyal to theater. And so
that's so interesting because I would think New York was because of they have a real Broadway.
Yeah, they do. They have Broadway, but
you said committed. Chicago is just
Chicago is very committed. A lot of actors that come up in Chicago come up in the theater. And so what was happening, and I got this right from the horse's mouth in LA, because I asked the same question. I was I asked them, I said, why are you doing all these shows in Chicago, but only cast the small roles in Chicago? You got to live in LA to get a job in Chicago when you got the best talent there is in Chicago. Wow. And they said, because we tried. And every time we would try to give a job to this actor or that, they would say, well, it's a conflict with my show where they're making $100 a quarter. You know what I'm saying? Wow. But they're very committed because so many people here are friends. It's very cliquish. I thought I was going to come back to Chicago and work. That's why I came back to Chicago with my daughter. I wanted to raise her near family, so it was either Texas or here. I was like, I did a show at the Goodman, and I was like, okay, it's Chicago. I couldn't get an agent here because they were like, well, you would compete with who we already have, and I'm like, maybe I would help whoever you have. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's a very cliquish place. A lot of friends do things, and they're not cool with outsiders. And then on top of that, they don't respect the artists that they have when it comes to pay. You know, I want to sing here. If I go to New York or to the East Coast, I'll make $1,500 for a couple of sets. Here, I got to beg for $100 for the whole band.
Wow.
And so you can't make a living here as an artist. At least it hasn't been that way.
Yeah.
You have to go somewhere else in order to live. Yeah. And then you can come back here.
Yeah, the profit is, I mean, it's actually biblical, right? In that space. And I don't understand it, but Chicago is that. And I think it's I don't know if that's part of Jim Crow. I don't know where it comes from, but it's a good, and so when I think about, right, when I think, and I ask this question a lot, like, what is it about Chicago that when I ask people come here, I said, what is it when you come to Chicago, what do you get? Think about that. What do you get? And so people would say, I said that you can get and take with you. Because literally you can't take our food with you. You're going to eat the food here, right? It was really hard. But you know what people said? It's going to blow your mind. The people.
Yeah.
It's the people.
Yep.
And I don't think that story, right? So if people come here for people, right? And I think about the co-working, why are the people that live here don't see that, right? People who come here, travel here, and they said people and arts. They did say the arts. They did say the arts. They said the arts and people. And I said, so given the fact that when I asked the question, I said, so when you go back to what do you talk about? I went to the museum. Okay. I went to I had good food. Okay. Got it. But it's just like the people there. Like, it's just the people. And so, but at the same time, my frustration is that, but why don't we galvanize? Because if people come here for people, why aren't we a big community in that state? When we're really, Chicago is a city to me in a lot of ways. We got it's about 25 cities in Chicago.
Okay, yeah.
You know, like if you break down, you've got your Bronzeville crew, right? You got your Andersonville crew. You know, I'm giving people context because the thing that I want to also come back to you is, what is the population for Roseland? What's about?
I don't even remember.
You don't.
I knew it at one point.
But is it what? 15,000?
Yeah, it's about 20,000.
Okay, so let's say 20,000. We were talking about this earlier. 20,000, right? So 20,000 people in a community, and let's say the average income is probably what, 26?
It was like 27, I think.
27,000. Okay, so 27,000. 27,000. So no matter what, right? You've got 19,000 or 20-some thousand people who make about 20-some thousand. No matter what, people gonna have they gotta have water. It's just certain essentials that people need. Pampers. I don't care how you look at it, they need it, right? And so realizing that if we did simple math, out of 20,000 people, if you got 1,900 people to come into your place of business, that's a lot of people. That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so I really think that, as you build on this co-working, is that also think that we have to change behaviors.
Yeah. We
have to get people to get out and support what's already in your communities. Because the biggest thing that, when I think about, obviously I don't live in Roseland, but I would be okay if somebody said, hey, you want to meet over at the 1921? Yeah, I'll come over there. But I also think we also say, well, I don't want to go out. That's, it ain't even that it's too far, because that's neither here or there, because all of us are traveling outside of our communities to get to their things, whether it's to eat, whether it's to go to the dry cleaners, you name it. We're all traveling outside of our communities, right? So how do we, James, and I'd love to hear you all's place on this, that how are we also going to impact behaviors so that it's okay, right? Because the first thing we're going to hear negatively is, bro, like I live in Inglewood. Oh, girl, that's bad over there. Well, no, it's actually okay, right? But how do we shift? And I'm not saying mindsets of behaviors, that it's okay to go into this amazing building, right, where I can work and buy something because I know that I have to buy it. Like I know that there's just certain things that we need water. I don't care what, but we need water. We got to have water. So even if you're able to walk in there and somebody is selling water, are you okay? But how are we going to shift that behavior to be able to say that these businesses that are there to drive people into the building? How we're going to do that? Because we're in this place of digital, right? We're in this place of people working from home. We were talking about this and this. How are you going to shift that to shift behaviors for people?
I think that it's being done for us.
Okay.
We're coming to the point now where we have to start loving on each other and trusting each other and depending on each other and seeing that the best that we could get out of life is right at home. Because we have been trained in a very direct, intentional way to believe that we're not good enough. And if this person is selling water, right? And that white guys selling water up the street.
We think that
water's better.
Yeah, that's good.
But we're being forced now because of all the activities of what's going on, the shift that's happening. We're seeing the truth. The comfort is gone. Sometimes it takes discomfort.
That's a good point.
In order to find your way to seeing each other for who you are and breaking through this malaise and breaking through this hypnotism that has been perpetuated in our communities for so long. And I believe that's happening right now. I agree. I see it happening. I'm experiencing it. I'm working with people that it's happening. I'm working on multiple projects, multiple places, and everybody is seeing, okay, we have to work together.
Yeah. I like it.
No more crabs in a pot.
Yeah, no, and I'm happy to hear from you guys, just people that are my peers saying that, because I didn't hear that before, right? We saw it around us, and I just wasn't that person. I just wasn't. And so the fact that we are being intentional, because, I was, at a conference, I believe, was it yesterday? Yeah, yesterday. And, we were having similar conversations. And what, I think, it reminded me that Frederick Douglass, without struggle, there is no progress. And we have to understand that, to your point, it's already happening for us because, listen, the struggle is we also are looking for the handouts. Sign me up. Yeah. And this, a lot of times, right? I know what's that? They're closing down. That was in Merchandise Mart. They're closing down. 1871. So people were running and flocking to 1871, right? It was we going to 1871 Merchandise Mart, and so it was a thing. And then it's gone. But that was because we wanted the address.
That's right. There you go.
We wanted to be, to your point, we wanted to be there. I'm overlooking the river. Honey, ain't nothing overlooking. Ain't nobody over there now. Yeah. So you all need people to come in there. And so I think, to your point, the neighborhoods now is the hot spot. And I'm going to say this, James, I'm going to give it to you. Okay, you said something about Mayor Lightfoot. I was on the business advisory board when she was in office, right? And the one thing that she said that I appreciated, whether people like her or not, this ain't for me. But she was really building an ecosystem where people should be able to entertain in their neighborhood. And I loved her for that. And people didn't like her strategy or her approach, but I liked it. You should be able to go to a festival in your neighborhood. You should be able to go to that local store in your neighborhood. You don't have to get on the bus or travel to that job. And the average, there is a stat that I read some years ago when I was, building some other things, and in the probably like 1980s, the average radius for people to get a job was within 5 miles.
Wow.
My first job was in my building where I grew up.
Wow.
Most people worked in their neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
So when we started to push people, to go downtown and go to the burbs, that's because the company saw that we were getting vibrancy. So they started moving into Chicago, and we were like, okay, I got me a job downtown, girl. I just got me a job up in, Schaumburg.
Sure.
And so now that we see this, to your point, it is shifting on its own.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's good. And I think we have to openly state that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we have to openly, and to your point, we have to also openly force people to come to Roseland.
Mm-hmm.
And I say force because the idea is that people that are not from here go to neighborhoods that none of us will go to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They'll be like, oh yeah, I go to it's a girlfriend of mine. She was like, oh, I go to the cobbler right here. It don't bother me. It doesn't bother me. But someone that's a native, oh no, I don't go down that street. Because you got that trauma, and that's fair. Mm-hmm. But we also have to understand that there's a shift, and we have to be down for that shift. So James, tell me this. As you build on this, how can people be connected to learn about these phases of, your website, social media? How can people connect to learn more about it?
Yeah. Well, before I get into that, I want to share something.
Yes.
Booker T. Washington said this. I think it fits us right now.
Yes.
It says, in all things that are purely social,
yes,
we can be as separate as fingers.
Yeah.
Yet one as the hand in all things essential to mutual progress. So you can do whatever you want if it's social. Yeah. But when it comes to moving the community forward, we need to be as one hand.
We do.
We're just not there yet.
Yeah.
Right? We're like I said, I've met with investors when I'm talking about 1921 and like, yeah. And I go, because we can change the community. And it's like, and they're all black. And they're like, they're not thinking about the community.
Yep.
No, I live downtown now. I'm good.
Yep.
I'm good.
Yeah.
I live here. I'm good.
Yep. Yep.
And so I started not even talking about the community. And then I was like, my friend was like, no. James, you are for the community.
Yeah.
So if you meet an investor and they're not for the community, then that's not who you want.
Yes.
You don't want their money.
Yep.
Because that means if you make them a millionaire, they're not thinking about the community.
No.
They're not thinking about mutual progress of the community.
Yeah.
And so therefore I talked about the community first.
You did.
Before, and the investors that I got, they were for the community.
That's awesome.
The ones I didn't get, well, then they weren't the ones I needed.
I love that.
And so to your question, how can people learn what we're doing? Well, that's why I'm glad to be working with Cynda on this. We have hoodies. Mm-hmm. All right. Because now
they're real cute, y'all.
Yeah,
they
you
cute.
got to put yours on.
I'm going to put mine on so we can take a picture and share with you guys.
And I'm going to get you this one too, by the way. I got you covered. I got you.
That's a nice one. I should have that's like a workout one. Like a little, I like that.
You want to see? Katori didn't tell me. I asked her which guy she wanted. Sorry, Katori. I don't mean to put you on blast, girl.
Yeah, you did put her on blast.
I put her on blast? Okay.
It's okay.
Is this going to air? No, I'm just kidding.
It is going to air.
All right, I just want to make sure.
But it's okay. It's all right. We still love Katori.
Okay. All right, we'll get you one. I'll get you one. But we're looking for the community now.
Yeah.
To come together. This is a hoodie that says, I know you can't see it, podcast people, but it says this hoodie or this t-shirt helps create tech jobs in the community. So at some point, we've got to begin to think, I have to do it myself.
I love the repetition.
You like that?
I do.
We have to begin to do it ourselves. And so you can... And it's really designed, and to answer your question, how do we get back to that? That's why we're putting 600 mailboxes down there.
Yep. We
need Black-owned businesses to say, this is where my address is.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of benefits to having a business. So every single one of my clients now who have their mailbox there, guess what they get? They get a business credit card application.
That's awesome.
Chase, American Express, Capital One.
Yeah.
When you say when you list your business address, they're sending you credit card applications for business credit because they want you to spend that money.
Yep.
These are some of the perks of having that business address.
That's right.
So the way you can learn more is you can visit 1921coworking.com.
Okay.
You can follow us on social media at 1921 Coworking because we're the only, I hate to say it, but once 1920...
Don't you hate when we're the only in 2025?
Yeah. When all 5 phases are done, we'll be the largest Black-owned tech incubator in the Midwest.
Wow.
I had a meeting with Betsy. She's the CEO of 1871. We're actually going to be partnering with 1871.
Oh, good.
Because they
need you.
Because they recognize.
Yeah.
And that was one of the, when they say, and listen, I grew up in Eagan, Minnesota, which is white spelled backwards. I had all white friends. I grew up in Europe. But I'm telling you this is that the things that we've done as a community, they haven't done. The reason 1871 is moving is because they don't own the merchandise market.
Yeah.
I own 1921 building.
Do.
I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
I'm going to own the next building over that.
Yeah.
And so even from the get-go, we have this mindset. We are already there, okay? But we've got to come together for the, like Cynda said, the shift is now forcing us to do it. Mm-hmm. And so we're hoping that as when you're listening to this podcast, you go to our website, you get your own hoodie. That hoodie, not only is it going to be proud to wear in that t-shirt, but think about buying a hoodie.
Yes.
And then 4 months later, your granddaughter or your son is now working at one of those tech jobs that we create in the community.
Yeah.
That's how we have to think. We cannot continue to think that it's someone else's responsibility.
I love this.
And so that's how they can find out. And so you're not going to hear me say somebody owes me anything.
I love it.
You're not. But the more hoodies we sell, the more t-shirts we sell, the more we're able to provide these free training classes. And one more thing, we're the first co-working space that has a childcare room.
Oh, that's awesome.
Because we recognize we've got single moms, single dads, parents that want these free entrepreneurship classes, that want these free
grandmas
that want these free classes that Cynda will be teaching and things like
that's
that.
Awesome.
Right?
That's awesome.
We need a childcare room. We're going to take care of her though. That's like everybody's hoodies.
But I love the hoodies also because I think that you are engaging all people to be a part of that.
Yeah.
So if you rock a hoodie, you can rock a hoodie young, right? You can be older. Like who doesn't love a hoodie, right?
What connotation did hoodies have when
Trayvon Martin. Yep.
When Trayvon Martin was killed, what did the guy say? He was wearing a hoodie. And then the next thing you know, everybody's identifying hoodie with thug and identifying hoodie with dangerous,
Yeah.
And what a great way to now change the narrative, as you said earlier.
It's about changing the
narrative. Of a hoodie.
Yeah.
This hoodie, I don't care what I look like, but this hoodie is going to help create tech jobs in the community.
Correct. It's a message, though. You made a statement. Like, it's an action statement. It's an action. This hoodie helps create tech jobs in the community, period. Right? We ain't trying to sell a brand. We trying to tell people this what we doing.
Yeah.
And I think there's that the brand that you're selling is really community.
Yeah.
That's the brand that you're selling. And so that's the part that, in a lot of ways, we use our hoodies to sell the brand, right? But you're leveraging the hoodies to not sell, but to tell what the community can benefit from.
Exactly.
And so that's huge. And it also helps, communities like we border, right? Indiana, Ohio, all these small towns that want a taste of Chicago, right? But everybody can't be in West Loop. Everybody cannot.
They cannot,
right?
Yep.
So you might have to go here. And that's not a bad thing, right? Because we all know what West Loop used to look like. Okay?
Yeah.
So that's the place on that.
Yeah.
So guys, 1921 Coworking support. I love James for building this and making sure that it is available. And when he talks about mailboxes, yes, I know a lot of y'all do work and we do work at home, but you need to get out and go to a physical location and have a separate address. I'm not going to say any more on that because at some point you got to get from hustle mentality into building business, right?
Absolutely.
And so as we wrap, we're going to ask you this, James, why do Black businesses matter?
Well, because, what did he say in New Jack City, CMB? We all we got.
That's
we all we
drop
got.
The mic. That's it. But you're right.
But we have to think that way.
Yeah.
As long as we think, again, when you look at everything I'm doing is the spirit of Black Wall Street.
Yeah.
100 years ago, that's all they had.
That's right.
So they had a pharmacy.
Yep.
They had a theater.
They sure did.
Because why? We all we got.
Yes, you're right.
And now we honestly...
Tailored suits. You could walk in and get your suit tailored. All of it.
Listen, if you come to the building when we open, You're going to get a history lesson of the grocery stores.
Oh, wow.
You're going to get a history of the transportation. There were Black people who owned planes 100 years ago.
Wow.
Who went to Europe for vacation 100 years ago. It's almost as if we don't think we can do that now.
Yeah.
And so that
capitalism too.
Yeah. But look, I'm a capitalist.
You are.
But I am a community capitalist.
You are. And I think but I think that's where we got to get back to.
Yeah.
I think you're just going back to. That's where we got to get back to.
Yeah, that's it. So we are.
I like that.
We are all we have, as my mother would make sure I said it the right way. You know what I'm saying? But we are all we have. But when you said
it like that, I like it. I was like, yeah, Cynda, what about you? Why do Black businesses matter?
Well, I recently, I don't watch a lot of news anymore because it was driving me crazy.
Sure, me
but
too.
I watch certain people and I watch Joy Reid.
Yeah.
And of course they let her go.
Yeah.
And I watched Roland Martin say they let her go because she didn't own it.
What did I tell you?
Drop the mic.
What did I tell you?
Drop the mic. That's it.
He
was right when he said that.
Yes.
He was right. Own it.
Own it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Why do we matter? Because we need to own it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's it. That's a word for real.
Yeah.
And you are owning it.
Yeah.
You are
Thank
owning
you.
it.
That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
That right there just set it up because it is true. Like when he said that, so to your point, true story. When I built this podcast, and so, a few people come to me, a few actually, this was in a really early part. I said, I own my content.
Mm-hmm.
I created it and I own it. And that's the part that people understand. We run to some of these platforms. And so I had learned that you run to them, you got to pay royalties when you decide you got to pay. So it's a whole thing behind that. But when you own this, so you can say whatever you want to say. That's why I love you can say whatever you want to say. We own it. And that is true. But and I hate to say this, that was what Oprah was trying to do. I just think it's just, in no disrespect, sometimes it's always about timing. Yeah. It was just not the right time yet. It just wasn't the right time. And she was trying to create that network where we could actually own it, but we weren't there. So, but that's why we needed her and a Tyler Perry so we can get to a James.
It's right.
Right? That's how that works.
Right.
So, I want to say this as we close. One of the things that I've learned through this podcast when I first started, and this came up, that we've never had permission to talk about our joy because we've always been able to struggle. For you, James, you grew up in an area where you didn't have that. But it was like we couldn't share a lot of times the joy of motherhood or the joy of your child coming home from school, excited to see mom and dad at home. They didn't have permission because we just weren't created. And so we felt like bringing light to these stories about Black joy was important. So what brings you joy?
Well, you said it. Being a mother.
I see. Yeah,
that's my number one joy.
You see, but you've not given permission. A lot of times you go to work, you can't really share, which, it's just that. And so having the work that you do is because of that. And people have said, like, having coffee, and looking outside the window, people realize that we couldn't share that. We have to get up, go to work, do all the things and never be able, because Black joy is currency. Yeah. It is. And it's a commodity that we've never been able to share with others. So that's why we say that. What brings you joy?
Yeah, it's so funny. My kids, because when they were young, I'd come home from work. We had this long hallway and they'd hear the door and they'd come running down. And you would just hear, like, I'd hear, Daddy's home. And they come running. I mean, now they're grown and I'm like, like, what's up, Dad? I'm like, just run down the hallway to me. Yeah. But really, my kids, I've made them, they are stakeholders in 1921. So they're investors. I made them investors.
Nice.
So Connor will graduate a millionaire.
Wow.
Cameron will finish a millionaire.
Wow.
My daughter's already finished. So she's like, Dad, can I get the $1 million now?
I know that's right.
But that's what brings me joy.
That's awesome.
And, I tell everybody, when I teach entrepreneurship is like, your passion. I wake up and go to bed with how can we move the community forward? I just do. And when I spoke to some young kids at Amplify Chicago, they were like, this is weird, man, because you're not even from Chicago.
Yeah.
And I didn't even think about it like that. Like, they're like, you're not even from here, but you want Chicago communities to be successful. You want us to be successful. And they're like, you're not even from, and I never thought about that, but that was for my mom and dad. That was their, wherever they went, they wanted to leave a mark.
Yeah,
because my dad was in the military, so we moved so wherever they were, they wanted to leave a mark and make sure that that area moved forward.
That's awesome.
And so here I am, the second generation, doing that, where I'm not from Chicago, but this is now my adopted
it's your home.
And so now I want my home to be that. I thought everyone grew up like I did. It was a culture shock.
Wow.
I thought everybody grew up like I did.
Wow.
And then I find out, no.
We didn't.
Yeah. And so now, but now I want to be able to give that.
Yeah, absolutely.
That single mom, that single dad, that young couple, that opportunity so that their kids can grow like that. And the way we do that is we own it. That's why I said it was made. My dad told me that. Make sure you own it.
Yeah.
That I own the building. That I own the land.
That I own is it. And that might be part of our. So we launched a magazine called BBM Mag, guys.
And so
cool. This is, I'm going to definitely share it. And so the purpose of the mag was based on, I know many of you all can't see it, but you can go to our website and you can download the copy.
Okay.
But we did print out a few copies because we did an event. But the whole purpose, as you all see, because I know you're an artist, was you won't see me on the cover, okay? Because when people said Chicago, they said art. And so we wanted to show color. We wanted to show vibrance. We wanted to show that this right here is community. These are people working together, right? And so it's important to showcase that. But then the other part of the book was, and hopefully we can get you guys to be featured in the Juneteenth issue for it. But one of the things that we built too was people had something to touch that they could actually say, I could, Noelle's from I can be like her, but then go and hear her story.
Sure.
So it really gives an opportunity. And I say this is sensory development, right? We listen to this, but now I want to see what this person looks like, right? And from this. And so this was, and, for Chicago, we all, what was it? Magnificent Mile was our destination for food, culture, retail. This is for everything.
I love it.
That is Black for us, right? And so that was important. And so while, people are like, well, why'd you do it? I said, because in a lot of ways, I was, this, broadcast journalist doing work. I love Johnson. I love Johnson Public. Like I looked forward to when we got it. And so we just don't have that. So to your point, it's important for community to see themselves and be able to see that I can own that. And so with this, right, I own this, right? I own it, right? Nobody comes in and be like, hey, Larvetta, nope, we own this. Yeah. And so that was important to be able to showcase, because a lot of times we looking for, I want to, and when we do want to get picked up for the show. So let's be real, right? But they gonna pay for it.
Right.
But we're not like, hey, if y'all don't, we won't do this. Right. No. Because we're here for the community.
Right.
And so that's important. So I'm challenging for Women's History Month. You guys, I've been saying this, all month. So I'm going to challenge you. And my challenge is, and because we have 1921, right, for you is maybe there's a women-owned business that you know of that we said send them a letter to say, I see you. But then let's say this, I see you and let's meet at 1921 Coworking.
Yes.
I see you. Let's go have coffee. We have to be able to change that. But notice I said, write that letter. We get a lot of texts. Now we get text messages, right? So write that letter to that woman. Challenge what is already happening for our neighborhoods to shift. It's already happening, but be a part of it and invest and own it and be able to do this, because this right here, the time is now. And so I'm challenging you for Women's History Month. That sister, that girlfriend, that wife, that niece, you name it, right? You see her working, building her business. Invite her to learn about 1921. Invite her to be able to say, hey, you should probably get a mailbox and I'm willing to pay for it. That's what we need. I see you, girl. I see you out there working it. Let me pay for this. This is how we build community. And so then you get to say, hey, James, I'm part of your investment too. I invested in my sister here to be here. Now we're building more community.
Right, exactly.
Right?
Correct.
And so we got to look at this so different. We have to. We can't look at it from James owns a building, but he's created us to have a building, to be able to commune together, to do work and build empires. Yeah. Because that's what we're doing.
Yeah, it's got to be the be all to end all.
Yeah.
Not New York or
correct.
LA.
Right. Correct.
Right here.
But it's right here.
It's right here.
On the south side of Chicago.
This is what I'm aspiring to.
Yes.
To do my best here.
That's good. That's good. Well, guys, I'm signing off. It has been wonderful. I just want to say this. I got to repeat it because it's amazing. Because 1921 Coworking says that they have hoodies that say this hoodie helps create tech jobs in the community. I need you to sit with that. So whether you know someone that wants to participate in tech, or perhaps they want to go to Silicon Valley, but they want to say, well, maybe I need to consider Chicago, whatever it is, get on board with this, because I think that we are making history in Chicago with the first, right, largest co-working in the Midwest. That's what it will become. Yeah. And so, guys, follow them, reach out. Again, show up the way you need to show up. We will not let them tear Chicago down, because we've got some powerful players in Chicago. Yeah. And I'm going to tell you why I know that. I've done over 100 episodes to be able to tell me that there's some powerful players up in here. So I appreciate all of you all for rocking with us. Happy Women's History Month. Thank you guys for another episode of Black Businesses Matter. And I'll see you next week.
The Black Businesses Matter podcast is produced by the L3 Agency, a culturally sensitive influencer, marketing, and communications firm in Chicago, where relationships are our currency, passion is our profit maker, and people are our bottom line. Follow us on Instagram at Black Businesses Matter.